So greetings, everyone. I'm Lisa Larimer, and I'm with EPA's Office of Science and Technology, and I'm in the Standards and Health Protection Division. I'm going to be one of two presenters for the app today. I'm going to be doing a brief overview of sanitary surveys in general, and then a little bit about our updated EPA Sanitary Survey app for marine and fresh waters. And then my colleague Sandra Denberger will demo one of the surveys to familiarize you with the structure and content of the surveys and also how to access the data later. So go ahead and advance to the next slide. So if you haven't already, before we start today's presentation on the app, you can download the app in order to follow along during the demo portion of the presentation, or you can just watch Sandra go through it. In order to access the surveys, though, you must have requested access through this link. So hopefully you've done that already. If you haven't, you can submit your request now because Sandra and I are busy giving this demo. We won't be able to approve you until after the webinar today, but we should be able to do so shortly afterwards. Go ahead and next slide, please. So sanitary surveys are not a new tool. They've been widely used in other programs. If you've heard about them at all, you usually hear about them in the context of drinking water programs or shellfish. The EPA beach program adapted them to use in recreational waters in order to provide a technically sound and consistent approach for identifying sources of pollution in order to improve water quality for swimming in recreational waters. But I do want to let you know that our app is useful not only for recreational waters and beaches, it can be used for gathering data for any water body. And as you'll see in the survey that Sandra will demo shortly, they are detailed surveys to help you collect data and systematically look at that information that can affect the water quality, like rainfall, wind, wave action, how many people are at the shoreline and in the water, what they're doing, if there's any animals there, whether there are stormwater or other pipes nearby that could be, putting some kind of pollutants into the water, bathrooms, and then also information beyond the immediate location like land use in the watershed. And by collecting this information when you're monitoring, it'll help you identify potential sources of pollution, figure out how much each of those is contributing, whether you need to change where you're collecting your samples, and to help you figure out which projects to pursue that will remove or reduce those sources. And so EPA's paper sanitary surveys, which were the predecessor of this app and the basis for it, have been widely used by states, territories, and tribes. Next slide, please. So sanitary surveys, they're an important tool that help you understand what is happening in your water body. And so this figure shows how and where sanitary surveys fit into a water quality monitoring program. So if you're going out and routinely monitoring your water quality and you're showing repeated exceedances of water quality standards, that's a good sign that you have a consistent source. And then you can use the sanitary surveys to identify sources causing the problem. And so we recommend you do them every time you monitor, and then a more comprehensive survey once a year. And then once you do all that, in an ideal world, there's going to be a source of funds to do something about the problem. And after you've identified potential pollution sources, you can prioritize them for remediation. And then you do your remediation with the goal of achieving improved water quality. Next slide, please. So sanitary survey data can be used, kind of like I said a minute ago, to identify sources and the size and scale of the water quality problem, to make decisions about what to do with this water. For if it's a recreational water, you can help make decisions on any advisories you want to issue, such as beach closures, and then what remediation action should be done to address the problem. And then the data can also be used to develop models that predict water quality. And so the figure on the right shows how sanitary survey data can be used in a model builder application, such as Virtual Beach, to develop a predictive model for a beach or other water body. Next slide, please. So there are several advantages to using the app, especially over the paper surveys. So it has surveys for both freshwater and marine waters. And then each water body type has 2 surveys, a routine one that we recommend doing every time you monitor, and then a more comprehensive annual one. And it's a mobile web-based application. So that means it can be used on any device, whether you've got a smartphone, a tablet, like an iPad, or a laptop. And we have updated it to include questions on harmful algal blooms. And it allows for easier downloads, data downloads, so you can share data with colleagues or other agencies, or to use in predictive models when you're developing those. And it also makes it easier to collect the data, mainly because you're not having to deal with paper blowing in the wind as you're out in the field. But so some of the ways it makes it easier is you can complete the surveys in the field. You don't necessarily need to have internet or Wi-Fi. It's available on the device as long as you download it ahead of time. You can store your survey data on our Geo platform at no cost to you. We've added the ability to add and store photos, and it geolocates the sites where the data is collected. So when you're out in the field, it'll automatically kind of grab your location, and Sandra will go into that a little bit. And then within the app, there are links to websites to make it easier to pull some of the information that the survey is asking for. Like in the weather-related section, there's a link to the National Weather Service that you can get information like, how much rain it was the last time it rained, and what's the current air temperature, stuff like that. Next slide, please. So when you go to Survey 123 to download the sanitary surveys, you're going to see that there are 4 surveys, 2 annual surveys and 2 routine. And as I mentioned, the annual ones, we recommend that you do once a year, and the routine ones every time you sample. And then today, Sandra's going to be going through the freshwater routine survey with you guys. Next slide. So data is submitted and stored on our Geo platform. And on the Geo platform, you are the only one that can see your data. So, other users can't see it, the general public can't see it. And then you can export or download your data 2 different ways, either using the Survey 123 website or EPA's Geo platform. And Sandra's going to walk us through how to access the data both ways if we have time. I think we should. And then the public cannot access any sanitary survey that you submit. Next slide. Okay, I did hear a couple of beeps as I was going through, so for those of you who may have joined us late, we welcome you to download the Sanitary Survey app if you've already requested access credentials to do so you can follow along during the demo. If you do follow along, we kindly ask that you do not submit your test data, and then Sandra will talk about how you can label your test data, so in case you accidentally do submit it, you can flag it later as being not real data. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to turn it over now to Sandra Demberger to do the demo. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa, for that little introduction there. My name is Sandra Demberger. I am an ORISE with the EPA working in the Standards and Health Protection Division. And so what I'll do today is give a demo, like Lisa and Sharon said, of the new survey app. So I'll show you some of the features of the app. And I guess while I'm giving this little intro, pull out your phones if you had time to download the app and the freshwater routine survey. So what I'm going to do is go through that, and I'll show you some of the features of the app, and then I will go online and show you how to retrieve and export your data. And there's 2 different ways of doing that. So without any further ado, I'm going to dive right in. So here on my screen, you can see the app. So this is what you should see on your phone or on your tablet. or if you have it downloaded on your computer, you'll see it there. And what you can see is that I have 4 surveys. That's simply because I have all 4 of them downloaded. On your screens, you will probably only see this freshwater routine survey right here. And I'm just realizing I need to plug my phone in so it can charge. So I'm going to do that. Sorry. Okay, there we go. So so like I said, we'll do the freshwater routine survey today. So I'm going to click on this to bring us to the home page. So this is the home page for the freshwater routine survey in the Survey 123 application. And so in order to get started, we're just going to very simply click this little collect button down at the bottom. It takes a little moment to load. And so what you can do is follow along with me. You can type in data into your phone, or you can choose to just listen, whichever you like. Like Lisa had mentioned, we ask that you try to avoid submitting any data by accident. But I'm going to go ahead and get started here since it's loaded. So this is our general information page. All of the 4 surveys kind of have a general overview page. And what you'll notice is that there's several places where you have this little red asterisk. That means that it's a field that you have to fill in. If you don't fill it in, you can't submit the survey. Here I'm going to enter in my water body name. I'm just going to do a little creek right down the street from where I live. It's called the 4 Mile Run. You can do this for beaches, for lakes, for anything really, any type of recreational water. And so for today's purposes and anytime you're testing anything out, we ask that you write the word test in front of your water body name. So you know, and so we know in the future that this is not real data. It's just practice dummy data. So another feature that Lisa had mentioned was these web links. Here we can see, we can click on the Beacon 2.0 website to get our beach IDs, or the water quality portal to get our sampling station IDs. This is just to help you, the user, get to the information that you need a little bit faster. So that's a neat little thing that we've included here. Next, scrolling down, you can see that the survey data and time are a required field, and those fill out automatically. If you want to change those, you absolutely can. Simply by clicking on them, you can change the date and the time. Next, we have our surveyor name. That is me today, Sandra Demberger, and the surveyor affiliation. I am an ORISE with the EPA, so that is what I'm going to put. Next, down here, we have our sampling location. This is where this app gets pretty cool, if you ask me. If we click on this map, so I guess before we click on it, you can see that this will geolocate to your exact location. Does not matter if you're connected to the internet or Wi-Fi. It will geolocate using your phone's GPS, whatever magical system is in there. It works. So if you click on this, it zooms and makes it bigger, and this will allow you to move the point on the map to wherever you want. So you can see I'm here in Arlington, Virginia. I'm just going to move my point to this little stream a little bit west of where I live, and so that's going to be where I'm going to pretend to survey my data. The other thing that you can do is, if your point is very far away and you don't want to scroll through the map, is you can click the search bar at the very top, and you can type in whatever your water body name is or a nearby location, and the map will automatically zoom to that location for you. So down here in the bottom right-hand corner, we have our little check mark. Once you have selected, once you made sure that the point is where you want it to be, you can click this little check mark, and it will validate it for you. So here we have, here we can see that my point has updated to that new location right along that 4 Mile Run Creek stream little channel over there, and we can see that this sampling point longitude and latitude have also updated. So that is a neat little feature. So I'm going to go ahead to the next page of the survey. There's a little arrow in the bottom right-hand corner, and so I'm going to click that to continue on. Okay, so here we are on the quality assurance and project plan page. This is an important page. You can see that here again we have that little red asterisk. So in order to submit this data, you have to have a QAP. If you click no, it sends you a little bit of hate mail and says you really should have one. So we click yes, that we have one. And normally what you would do is insert a link right here to your online PDF version of that QAP. If you don't have an online version, you can simply write QAP will be emailed, EPA, EPA. And So these little italic, the little additional comments that are made for various questions, they provide you with a little bit more detail on how to correctly fill out that question, or if there needs to be an extra step done, that will be here. So you can see that if you don't have a link, you can email your QAP to EPA_sanitary_survey_app@epa.gov. So there's that little bit of information. And there's a couple of questions throughout the survey that have a little extra information as well. So that is it for the first 2 pages of the survey. I'm going to click in the bottom right-hand corner the arrow to go on to the next page of the survey. Okay, so here we're on the 3rd page of the survey. This is really where the meat of the survey begins. This is where you get to start entering some of your data. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter some dummy data for today's survey and show you some of the features available. So here I'm going to enter 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and you'll notice that this field down here will auto-populate, which is neat. You can select your methods for your air temperature. Maybe our wind speed is 6 miles per hour. And again, that auto-populating right here. Maybe our winds are a gentle breeze in the northeast direction, and maybe we have some stronger gusts at just 30 miles an hour. Another feature of the survey that I'd like to point out is that you'll notice these dots, everything so far have just been these little circles. So you can only select one of these units, as you can see. Here, under methods for wind speed, you can see that there are boxes that allow you to provide little check marks. So maybe for our wind speed method, we use the wind vane for direction, and then maybe we use the weather app to tell us what the speed was. So that is a place where we can do that. And there's a couple places throughout the survey where you can use these check marks to select multiple features. If you were to check other, then you can add a little bit more detail about, whatever method you use for your wind speed. I'm going to uncheck that for now. So scrolling down, you can see there's tons more data that you can add about your location, such as rainfall events, intensity of the rain, sky conditions, water body conditions. I'm going to scroll through a lot of these and go through the next page of the survey, just in the interest of time. So again, in the bottom right-hand corner, you have that little arrow. You're going to click that to go ahead to the next page of the survey. Okay, so here we are in part 2. This is the more detailed water quality section. So here, the first question asks, are water quality samples being collected? If you click no, there is no further work to be done. If you click yes, then you can see this bacteria section pops up. I'm going to toggle between those just so you can see how it pops up. This is an example of an embedded question within the survey. And so what you can see here is under where it says bacteria samples, we have this little plus sign. Anywhere you see a plus sign throughout the survey, that is an open invitation to add more data into the survey. So I'm going to click this, and you will see we have all sorts of information we can add about bacteria samples. So I'm just going to add a little bit of information, point A, maybe our sample number 102. Here, our map, I'm going to reiterate that this would geolocate to your exact location, or you can move it. So again, clicking on it, I'm going to move it just a little bit north of where my original sampling point was. That check mark in the bottom right-hand corner will validate that. And then the longitude and latitude, as you can see, have updated to that new location. Scrolling down a little bit, we can see that it asks you for a parameter. So, and here you can see an example of one of those descriptions, fecal indicator bacteria being measured. So maybe we're measuring E. coli and fecal coliform. And then we also have a location to enter any comments about the sample. So maybe there was tons of leaf litter floating around in that little stream, or whatever, maybe there's tons of trash, little plastic particles in your water sample on the beach. Whatever that might be, this is a great place to put some of those comments about your bacteria sample. So right here, you can see that this is 1 of 1. We can add up to 10 entries into this little feature right here. So again, you see this plus button. I'm going to click this to add a second component into this, a second bacteria sample. So maybe this is point B. This is our sample 102. And again, I'm going to move our point. Maybe this time we went a little further south of where we originally started. Checking that checkbox in the bottom right-hand corner will validate that for us. and it'll update the longitude and latitude, and then E. coli and fecal coliform, and whatever comments you want to enter. Again, you are welcome to do that or skip it, up to you. So we have entered 2 bacteria samples into this, and so by clicking this arrow right next to this trash can right here, you can toggle between those and just make sure that everything looks and feels the way that you want it to. If you messed up or you want to, discard something, you can edit by clicking this trash can and starting over, or editing within the point that you've entered already. So that is, one other thing to show here with this is right at the top next to where it says bacteria samples, you have this little downward arrow. When we click on this arrow, it will collapse that whole section. So I'll do that just a couple times for you to see. This is a great way if you are on your phone or on a little iPad in the field. This is a great way to shorten the survey just to make it a little bit more manageable for you on your phone. So I'm going to scroll down a little further and take a quick sip of water. Okay, so moving on, here we can see all sorts of more information you can add about your water quality, whatever odor, maybe the color, if the color has changed, how it's changed. And next we have water quality images all the way at the bottom of this 4th page of our survey. And so to add water quality images, this is a new feature. This obviously was not possible on the paper surveys, so this is a really cool feature. What you can do is either click this camera button right here. By clicking the camera button, the camera on your phone, on your iPad, on your computer, whatever it is that you're using, will open up. You have to make sure you allow that, that setting through the app, but that will open up, and then you can take a picture directly through the app. You don't even have to exit out or anything. Super cool. The other option, which is what I'm going to do today, is press this little folder button, and I'm going to navigate to a folder on my computer to add a picture. So here is a picture that I just added. This is a downstream photo. So you can, you can see that you can add whatever description you need to for these photos. You can add more, you can add less, whatever helps you remember what that is, what that picture is. Again, you can see this little plus sign right here. By clicking the plus sign, you can add, again, up to 10 photos. So I'm going to add just one more photo, just to show. So this is another photo. This photo, adding a little description, is the Columbia Pike Underpass. It's always hard to type and talk at the same time. But this is the Columbia Pike Underpass of the 4-mile run. So again, toggling between those 2 photos, you can see everything is there. Everything looks good. If you don't like how something looks, you can delete it. You can rotate your pictures. We have all sorts of options. So that is it for our water quality stuff. So I'm going to go ahead to the next page of the survey. Again, that bottom right-hand corner, you click that little arrow, and that will take you to the next page. Okay, so here we are in part 3 of our survey. This part looks like it's very easy to answer. Are bathers or recreators present in the water body? If there's no one in the water body, there's no further information to be entered, so that's all. But I will show you some things here. So I'm going to click yes, there are recreators present. Not a ton of people recreate in the creek that I've selected for today, but if you're doing a beach or whatever other kind of recreational water body, there might be tons of people on shore. So maybe we have 6 people in the water and 6 people out of the water. This total beach, the total people at the beach, that will auto-populate to 9. 6 plus 3 is 9. And then here again, we see that little plus sign. That means we can add more information. So I'm going to click that. Maybe of those 6 people in the water, 2 of them are swimming. Not very deep water to be swimming in, but you never know. Here is a little plus sign to add more information. Again, you can add up to 10 additional pieces of information here, so 10 additional activities that you see at the beach. So maybe some of those people standing on the side, I said there was just 3 people out of the water. Maybe one of those 3 people are fly fishing. So you can see there's all sorts of places where you can add more or less detail depending on your needs for your survey collection, for your data collection. So here, clicking those 2 arrows, you can toggle in between what you just entered and make sure everything looks good. And at the top here where you see list of activities, that little arrow again, you can minimize that section or expand that section just to make it a little easier on you. So coming down to the very bottom of the survey, again, here's a great place to add photos if you have bathers at the beach doing, something weird or something notable that you want to photograph and document. This is a great place to add photos for that. So again, with that plus sign, you have the ability to add more information, in this case, photos. So I'm going to go to the last page of the survey by clicking in the bottom right-hand corner, this little arrow. Okay, here we are on part 4. This is the potential pollution sources section of the survey. This is the final section of the routine freshwater survey. You can see you can add data about discharge sources, the amount, the flow rate, the volume. You can add images about your discharge. I'm going to skip these for now, just in the interest of time. Scrolling down a little further, you can add information about floatables and debris. So remember I said earlier in those bacteria samples, maybe there's some notable stuff in the water that you want to make sure is noted. So you can say, yes, maybe there is street litter and maybe some food-related litter in your water samples. So that's helpful. And again, if you were to click other, you can specify that other source of debris or floatables in your recreational water. Scrolling down, you can see there's questions about algae, if there's algae present in your water body. If there is algae present, you can see there's a host of additional information you can enter about that algae, such as how much there is, the type maybe, what colors, that kind of information. And for those of you who are familiar with the paper surveys, this is new. The harmful algal bloom section is a new section that we've added in the online app. So that is something to be excited about for those of you who have harmful algal blooms and are trying to, document that. This is a great way to document that information. So if there are presence of harmful algal blooms, you can describe that algal bloom. So maybe it's bright green and stringy, something like that. Maybe we used a field guide to identify that. Maybe there are floating mats in the near shore waters, pretty gross. And again, you have the ability to attach a photo. I think this is fantastic. A picture's worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to go ahead and add a picture of our gross green stringy algal bloom, whatever this may be. So there it is. And again, you're able to rotate that, whatever you need to. And again, some extra information. Here we have that link where we can link to our State Department Health if we want to add information about any illnesses related to that algal bloom. Scrolling down, we can add information about the presence of dead birds or dead fish. Maybe we see 1 or 2 dead fish. You can specify the type of fish. For the birds, you can specify both the type and the amount of dead birds you find in your area. Hopefully you don't find any, but if you were to find that kind of stuff, you're able to document that here in this app. And then finally, again, adding more images to help you, document whatever it is you need to. This is a great place to add more images. So that was a very quick run through of the survey itself. So now I'm going to show you how to submit the survey, save the survey. There's a couple different options. So again, we ask that you don't submit the survey for today, but if you accidentally do, that's okay. Just remember to write the word test at the very beginning next to your water body name. Okay, so to submit your survey, down here in the right-hand corner is a little check mark. When you click that check mark, you have several other options that pop up. You have the option to send the survey now. When you're completely done your survey, everything looks the way you want it to, you're ready to go, you want to be done, this is the button that you're going to click. You're going to click send now right here where my mouse is hovering over. The other option is to continue the survey. That's what I'm going to do today because I have one other thing I want to show you. And then your third option is to save the survey into your outbox. So if you're not completely done, you want to come back to it later, that's one of the places that you're able to save it. So I'm going to click continue the survey for now. Okay, so there's one last thing I want to show you, and that is by clicking this X up here in this blue very top toolbar where it says freshwater routine surveys. If you click this X, you have several more options. You have the option to close and lose this survey. that's what I'm going to do today. I don't need to save this survey because I already submitted a dummy survey for us to look at in the Geo platform. So I'm going to close and lose this survey. Again, you have that option to continue the survey if there's more work to be done, or you have the option to save and draft. This is an excellent option, an excellent option if you would like to come back to this. So say you filled out most of it in the field and you want to come back to the office, or it's really hot outside, you want to sit in your car. This is a great place to just finish up those last couple pieces of your survey before you're submitting it. So I'm going to click close this survey and lose changes. There we go. So whichever one of those buttons you click, with the exception of continue the survey, you will be bumped back to this home page. This is the freshwater routine homepage. Once again, this is where we started. So here you can see that collect button. That's what we clicked to start. We also have the inbox, the drafts, and the sent. The drafts obviously is where your drafts are saved. And then here in the sent folder, I'm going to click on this. In your sent folder, you can see I have 2 surveys that I sent. Here's the 4-mile run survey that we filled out together today. If we click on this, we have 2 options, and these are actually pretty neat options. We have the option to send and resave the survey. This will completely override your everything that you did previously. So if there's something that you entered in incorrectly or counted the number of people wrong or something like that, you can edit and resend the survey right here. The other option is to copy the sent survey to a new survey. This is the option you would click if, say, you're coming back to the same water every year, every couple months to do various surveys. And this will, keep some of those fields populated, such as your beach ID number or whatever else. And then you would have to go in and change other things. So 2 great options here. Okay, so that is everything for the survey itself. I'm going to switch gears now and show you how to retrieve your data. So here I have, let me back up a step actually. There's 2 different ways to view and retrieve your data. The first way is through ArcGIS Survey 123. That's where I'm going to focus today. I think it's easier to use. The other option is through Esri's Geo platform. Both do all the same things. They're just a little bit different in how you use them. And whichever one you use, again, get all the same data and you can download your data. It's just a little different in how you use them. So like I said, this is ArcGIS Survey 123. Once you log in and you click on My Surveys, this is the home page that you will see. So you can see there's all 4 of the surveys are listed right here. You'll notice that for the first 3, the records are 0. That's because I have no data entered there. Let me see, right here, you can see that there's 2 records. So those are the surveys that I submitted for the freshwater routine survey. So that is where my data is housed. Over time, you will have more records, and these will populate a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this icon to get us to the freshwater routine homepage. Okay, so here we can see in the top right-hand corner, you can see that we are currently on the overview page. The overview page provides high-level information about the survey. So you can see that there's a total of 2 records. You can see my survey count over time, just two little surveys that I did. The number of participants, just me, and the first one that I submitted and the last one I submitted. Again, this would get much more interesting over time as you enter more and more surveys. Next, we have the Analyze tab. This tab allows you to analyze individual survey questions and create all sorts of dynamic charts. I'm going to skip this section for today. Again, I only have 2 data points in there. It's much more interesting to look at when you have lots of data. So that's, I guess, a little plug to enter more data and to do lots of surveys. Finally, we have the Data tab. That's where my mouse is hovering right now. I'm going to click on this so it can start to load. But this Data tab is, so it provides you a map and table view of your data that you just submitted. And so here you can generate reports, view, and export your data. So once this is done loading, I'm going to show you that there's 2 different ways to view your data once you are in this format. Okay, in this tab, I guess. So you can see here my 2 data points. So the first way to view your data, I said there were 2. The first way to view your data is by clicking on your point. Here we go. When you click on your point, you see this little window pop up on the right-hand side, and it's a little slow today. It's usually not quite this slow, but what you'll see, here we go, is all of the data that you just entered. What's nice is it shows you all of the questions of the survey and in the exact same order of the survey. So here's our air temperature information, our wind speed information. Remember where we checked multiple things for wind speed? Here we can see the wind vane and the weather app that we use to measure our wind speed. Scrolling down, this is our bacteria sample section. You can see these maps are interactive. You can zoom in and move around to really see where you were out in the field. And then finally, you can see your pictures here. When you click on your picture, it'll pop up a little bit bigger, and you can view that as well. So in order to export this data, right here, right up here under the green bar, I think you can see my mouse now, that is where you would export your data. So when you click on that, you have a number of records, a number of options in how to export your data. You can export via CSV, Excel, KML, shapefile, or file geodatabase. Whatever it is that's most convenient for you or for whatever project you have with this data, you may want to select shapefile or something else. I'm going to select CSV for today. And you can see it is syncing for a moment. It takes a quick moment. And I'm just going to save it right here. And you can see it pops up down on the bottom left-hand side as a zip file. Within that zip file, you'll have several Excel files that outline all of your various data that you can see here. I should note that when you export your data, it does not export your photos. You will have to use right here this right-hand pane. We got to that as a reminder. We got to that by clicking on this point. You'll have to right-click and save image as. That's how you save your images. A little bit old school, but that is one little limiting feature of this platform. So that's the first way to view your data. The other way to view your data is I'm going to click this X button right here. And you can see down here there is the beginnings of a table. So I'm going to pull this table up using this little arrow that pops up when you hover your mouse over it. And I'm going to drag it up all the way. Here we can see your data in table view. Each line will be an individual survey. So you can see all of the data in line. This is a little bit of a different way to view your data. You can see all sorts of good information here. It's all there. Information about your bathers. Your photos will not pop up in this view. So that is just a little limiting thing. And again, where you had those multiple check marks, it separates in this table just by little commas. So that is very quickly a little bit of demo about Survey 123 GeoPlatform. Remember I said there were two different ways to view your data. I'm just going to show you very quickly the Esri GeoPlatform. Here's the homepage for the Esri GeoPlatform. Very similarly, you can see that there's an overview page. That's where I am right now. There's also a data page. My mouse is up here in the top right-hand corner. We have overview, data, and visualization for those of you who lost track of my mouse. So when I click on the data tab, you can see here is all the information in data in a tabular format. You can scroll through this and play around with it. And then finally, we have the visualization tab at the end where you can see your data in map view when it loads in a moment. There we are. And when you click on your point, your data will pop up in this little pop-up box. So that is very quickly the GeoPlatform, Esri's GeoPlatform. Again, you can also download or export your data through this platform. It has a couple extra steps that you need to take, but it is entirely possible. The last thing I want to show you is right here, the Sanitary Surveys for Recreational Waters homepage. This is a very valuable resource because it has, when you scroll down, right here on the right-hand side in the related information box, it has instructions. I went through a ton of information today. These instructions are very valuable. They not only show you how to obtain credentials and access the survey, it also walks through everything that I walked through today in more detail. So how to get your data, how to export your data, how to manipulate some of those maps and do some cool things. So that is, I guess, the conclusion to the demo portion of the webinar today. I'm going to close this and open it up for any questions. You are welcome to chat in the chat box or unmute yourself to ask a question. So I'm going to hand it back over to Sherry, who's going to moderate that.
Thank you, Sandra. That was an excellent demo, and I was just writing back about that same EPA Sanitary Survey app at EPA.gov address to Michael, who was written into the chat box and was having some trouble finding the surveys. I think he might need some help, so I was offering that he could send his information into the one of us, likely Sandra, will connect with him and just walk him through if that's what he needs. So, but most importantly, and I'm not sure if this is a step Michael missed or not, is that the first thing you need to do is to make the request to request access to the app. We have to give you credentials. And so there's that in the upper left corner in the general info pod is that https://request.ercloud.org/request account. So if you click on that, it gives you a very little simple form to fill out, and then within 24 to 48 hours, we'll be able to, and often faster, be able to get you credentialed. And then we have a set of instructions. And I think, Sandra, you recently had the link to our homepage that has the instructions, and I know that once upon a time, we had sent out to this group, to the state monitoring contacts, we had sent out some instructions, but they might have come through our monitoring program in EPA and not from us directly. So, Sandra, maybe you could go to the slide that has the EPA webpage on it.
Yeah, so it's open right now on the question slide here on the right side for more information and instructions.
Perfect.
If you visit this link right here, that is the home page. Also, if you were to just Google sanitary surveys EPA, I'm sure it will pop up in the first couple links. And again, once you're on that home page, I guess I can pop over to it real quick. Scrolling down, so this is the beginning of the page. Scrolling down, and right here you have a whole section about our sanitary survey, and the instructions in much more detail are right here on the right-hand side in the related information box.
Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that folks, it looks like Michael has access, so hopefully he'd be able to follow those instructions. And Michael, again, or anybody else on the line, you're welcome to email some contact information to us at the EPA Sanitary Survey app email box, and we would be happy to connect with you and just, get online with you and walk you through. So we don't want this to be challenging.